Welcome everybody to another episode of the PPSS Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today, I have another amazing guest. This is somebody I've known for many, many years, and we built a great friendship. We've even gone to Disneyland together, and we had a lot of fun and all that kind of stuff. But when I first met him, he blew me away because he was so good at what he does. He was a real estate investor when I met him. He was an engineer as well. He was doing a lot of different things, and he and his wife are the exact power couple that we always kind of looked up to. And whatever they touch, they turn into gold. Absolutely amazing. And we had the opportunity to talk to Chan a couple of weeks ago, and that was a lot of fun as well. And we got to hear her knowledge and her expertise. But today we also get to hear her husband's expertise, which is Shin. He is a crypto connoisseur. He is a life investor. He loves helping people find their long-term wealth. So please welcome Mr. Shin Kawaguchi.
Thanks, Fong. That was a great intro.
Hey, thanks for being here and spending some time with us.
No problem. Glad to be here, and hoping this helps a lot of people.
Awesome. How's your day been? What have you been up to recently?
Well, this morning I just basically get up and make sure the kids are taken care of, so that they're not running in here while this interview is going on. But outside of that, watching the crypto market quite closely. There's actually a good day to do an interview because there's a lot of fear and panic in the crypto world. No one knows where we're at, and depending on where you get your news from, you're probably going to get a different opinion. Truth is, nobody totally knows the answer. Obviously, it's a bit of a red day, but maybe we're bouncing back. Maybe we're going to fall down to who knows where, and then the whole boom cycle is over. But I think I can give some opinions on where I think it's at, and in any situation, I think it's all about risk management. Like, are you prepared for the worst case scenario, and are you ready if it takes off and goes to a better case scenario? Just got to be prepared. If you worry about too much and it stresses out other aspects of your life, then it's probably time to reevaluate how you're investing. And you probably were prepared for the worst case scenario, and that's fine, but take the lesson and get prepared. It's an interesting time.
That's for sure. And you were talking about just the change in crypto has been absolutely amazing. I mean, just a few weeks ago when I was talking to Chan, I think we were looking at about 70,000, and now it's not even close to 70,000. So we'll get more into detail on crypto. But first of all, with regards to who you are and what you do, give us a quick little journey, a little trailer of who Shin Kawaguchi is and how you became the crypto connoisseur you are today.
It's probably a semi-normal start to the world. I started, both my parents were in education, so that was always a big part of my life, and they directed me into the whole university realm. I got my degree in engineering, electrical engineering, working in that world for quite a while. But after I bought a house in 2007 and the prices crashed and I was basically underwater on it, I started realizing that, hey, maybe I should learn a little bit more about money. That's one thing that was never really taught in school. Started picking up books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just started to get educated on a few different topics. My dad was big into stocks before the tech boom, and then lost a bunch of money, and that was kind of hard for him, I think. And there's so many ways in the world to make money now, and things are going faster and faster. And so I think just reading, learning. We got into real estate. We live in Calgary, Alberta. So in sort of 2010 to 12, you could kind of see the real estate market picking up. Interest picked up, and that's kind of when we jumped in, bought a bunch of houses. We got into rental properties, and that's kind of how we met you, Fong, was through all the real estate investing. And something changed sort of in 2014, I think. We went to a conference and we saw Harry Dent speak. I don't know if you remember that one, where he was talking about demographics and how things were kind of getting overvalued and when it was time to sell. And it actually took us to maybe the next level where we started looking at the macroeconomics of things and how things are really working. And we did notice that, hey, the oil and gas market in Alberta, which sort of drives the entire economy, was starting to turn because gas prices were dropping. So we thought, what would happen? Maybe we should prepare for this. To prepare for it, we said, maybe we should sell some of our houses, take some capital outside of the real estate market and get ready. And so we did that. Kind of good timing because it sort of peaked around 2015. and we were sort of looking for the next thing to invest in. And I remember my dad had even mentioned Bitcoin back in 2011, 2012, when it first hit $300, I think. And it was all the rage and people were starting to get into it. And then the whole market collapsed. One of the largest exchanges kind of went under and people forgot about it. But in I think the early 2017, we just started hearing people started talk about it again. That's how I ended up getting into crypto. Didn't really read much about it, just bought some Bitcoin and I'd hoped that it would go up. And then by the end of 2017, you could see, Bitcoin basically went parabolic. And then that's when we really started to research. We started to get in touch and go and get more in the community. There's a big community probably everywhere. So we met some guys from Calgary. We learned a lot about mining, a lot about different coins, and bought into the hype and lost a bunch of money when that turned in 2018. So I think the downturns are where you learn the most, and gets you ready and prepared for the Bitcoin cycle, which will still be going on. Bitcoin's not dead; it's not going away. Crypto is not going away; it's adapting, and just watch for cycles and be prepared. If this is the end of this one, then be ready for the next one, right? That's how we look at it. It's not get rich and retire in 1 year strategy. That's possible, but very risky to pull off. This is a look at a long-term strategy and how can you position yourself the best for the next cycle in 4 years, or the cycle after that in 8 years. Like, where do you want to get to? And I think within the next decade, there's going to be a huge shift as crypto gets mass adopted. And it's one of those technologies that we're still in the stage where people don't understand it and can't use it. Mm-hmm. So once it becomes a stage where people can use it, they don't even necessarily need to know how to understand it. But once people have access to it, which could come as soon as this year, the beginning of it, where banks are allowing people to buy crypto out of their bank accounts, mass adoption will be very, very quick. And then the price inevitably will go up on some form of cryptocurrency, whether it be Bitcoin or altcoins or some other digital currency the government's come out with. Just learning about the space and getting involved in it, it's probably a very good time.
Now, I mentioned in the intro there that everything that you and your wife touches turns into gold, or now it turns into Bitcoin. What is that one thing that you think separates you from other entrepreneurs and other investors that allows you to be successful in everything that you kind of work on, like from real estate to insurance? You worked on that a bit. You also worked on online sales and marketing, crypto. What is that one trait that you possess that separates you from other people that allows you to be that successful?
I think a lot of entrepreneurs do this. Is just that you have a drive to keep learning and doing something new. Maybe not everybody does it, but I think we are willing to try new things, get uncomfortable, take some chances, and sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't. I think it's one of those things, people see the successes, but they don't see all the failures. They don't see all the rough times, the bad nights, the money losing, the stress that it can cause too. So we're getting a little bit better at balancing those kind of things. And obviously there's you want to balance family life and social life and your health in there as well. I mean, it's not all about work and business, but just that curiosity really helps. If you're interested, like if you're just curious in Bitcoin, there's not a bad time to get in. Everyone wishes they got in 2010, 2011, but honestly, like no one really even knew about it back then. It wasn't mainstream news. People are hearing about it now. And so that's where the adoption is growing. For real estate, it was sort of the same thing. Most of our family and friends weren't investing in real estate, but we thought, hey, this is working. You hear these seminars on TV or on the internet, and maybe we should check one of these out. What's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah.
We were down in LA when we were with you. We took a trip and went to the Scientology Museum, not because we were interested in Scientology, but we're like, what is this all about, really? You hear people talking about it, and our experience was was interesting. We didn't end up joining, but just to know what other people believe in, I think that's a good trait to have. I know I don't know everything. I think I can learn something from everybody, regardless of how stereotyped it is. So if you go with that mentality, you can learn a lot of things. Make your own decisions, and I think that's a healthy attitude to have, and it can lead to success if you're if you have the charisma and the will to follow through on things, I think anything's possible.
Now, you mentioned before about all the ups and downs and the failures and all that kind of stuff and all the stress that comes with it. How do you deal with that stress? How do you deal with those ups and downs and still come up on top?
Oh, I think that's something we had to learn too. We had a large number of real estate deals fall through when we were kind of in a highly leveraged position, and it was a little bit scary. And so I think having Chan really helped out as well, because it was something to bounce ideas off of and talk about and discuss. And you know, we went to we've done a few retreats, yoga retreats. Maybe meditation helps people. You have to be able to take yourself out of the situation, look at it from a top-down perspective, and then just be like, well, what can I do? What is in my control when everything feels like it's out of control in the situation, to get back into it? When you're looking at the crypto market and it's not really in your control and everything's going down, like what can you do to regain control? And just that feeling of having some control is better than feeling like you're out of control. And I think that's just the truth reality situation. Control what you can, make smart decisions, and just kind of like chip away at the problem until you have a solution.
When it comes to real estate investing and also in crypto investing, there's both types of investments have their ups and downs. I think that with regards to real estate, there's a little bit more of a control aspect there, where you can kind of predict a little bit more. It's not as volatile, but there's still the ups and downs. Now, for somebody who goes, you know what, I want to get into crypto, but there's so volatile, so many ups and downs, I don't know where to start. It's hard for me to start. What would be the mindset that you would tell people to have in order to get into crypto?
I think at this time, crypto is a up and coming technology, right? So if you want to get in, it's very hard to pick the best time to get in. Obviously, the best time is the bottom, when it's the scariest. Are we at the bottom now? It's hard to tell. It's scary though. So you can look at the fear and greed index, but the best way to get to any of these assets that you don't fully understand yet is to put a dollar cost average and put an amount that you're willing to lose, or it's not going to stress you out if it goes down in value. And same thing with the stock market. You don't understand the stock market, don't say, I'm going to pick the best time to invest my $70,000 of RSPs or whatever. Just say, oh, you know what, I'm going to dollar cost average in, put $1,000 at the end of every week or however much every month, and get in slowly, and then start getting educated on what you're actually buying and what it's doing. If you leverage yourself and go all in and follow someone else's advice on YouTube, there's a high likely chance you're going to end up losing it. Don't do that. Just do a slow and steady approach. I think people that are freaking out about Bitcoin right now, zoom out on the whole chart, look at what it's done over the last 10 years, and you say, okay, I see what the general trend looks like. I don't know exactly where we are in the cycle right now, but I can see potentially where it's going. And base your investment decisions on what's going to happen in the next 5 years versus what's going to happen in the next 5 days. It's a lot safer that way.
What would you say is a good percentage of a person's portfolio that should be in crypto?
There's mixed opinions on that too. I'd say if you look at the past history over the last 10 years, Bitcoin's the best producing asset out of any asset class, but it's also the most volatile currently because it's very new. We're living in a market where fiat currencies are basically overinflated and they're getting printed to basically worthlessness. So you have to choose an asset that at least appreciates with inflation, so real estate's a good example of that. Gold is, in a way, although we didn't really see big gains in gold until the last 2 years when coronavirus hit. So it's kind of an interesting asset too, but I think gold and silver is a good safe asset to be in. The stock market, a lot of people are thinking it's also overinflated, but when's the best time to get in the stock market it's hard to tell. It's one of those things you have to dollar cost average in. So there's no 100% right answer of where to put your money and what you're putting money in, but start with something that is affordable and you understand and you're interested in learning about. I think all asset classes are great. There's no 100% purely passive investment. You kind of want to be able to manage it, even if it's once a quarter, once a year, and look at where your investments are and what you're doing with them. But yeah, I think there's active and passive components of every investment. Like you can be very active in the real estate world and the business and makes great money doing that. You can be very active in trading currencies or commodities or whatever you want to do there. And it's not that you have to that you're going to be passionate about something. It's just try a little bit, that you're willing to lose if things go totally bad. And if you're starting to like it, don't like it because of the money. Like it because you have an interest in it, and then you can build a passion around it. And if you get passionate about it, then I think you can probably be successful at anything.
I really like that. There was two things that you said there was very, very important. One, you could lose it all. So how much are you able to kind of lose without really affecting you? And the second thing is don't invest because of the money, but because you're curious and you want to learn about it. And when you have those two kind of things as your backbone, your kind of mindset, then you're kind of leveraging your investments and also being a bit safe about it too, which is very, very important.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to crypto, people say now is probably the best time, and then 5 years ago, now is the best time. 10 years later, now is the best time. Mm-hmm. I remember my very first experience with crypto was, I believe it was in 2007. And that was when crypto was not even talked about. It was completely worthless. Nobody cared about it. Nobody even heard about it. And this one person came up to me, and I actually sat down with him in Hong Kong, and we were talking about it. He goes, "This is going to be the next big thing." And in fact, here, he gave me like 5 vouchers for like a free 10% of a Bitcoin. All right. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I have the sheets, and I still have these sheets like stapled on my wall to show me that this is a mistake that I should have done years ago, kind of thing, because I didn't end up downloading those 10% of a Bitcoin, which would be now over like thousands of dollars. So I always kind of look at that photo and go, you know what? I should have did that at the time when it was kind of the beginning. Fast forward a few years later, I was looking at Bitcoin. It was like thousands. I think it was like 2,000-3,000. And I was sitting there, you know what? That's too rich for me. I'm going to jump into these Litecoins and all these other things, or I'm going to invest a little bit into Bitcoin. But I did the transaction, and for some reason or not, my system crashed. So the transition did not go through. And I'm going, well, I guess it's not meant to be. And I didn't even touch it again. And now it's worth thousands and thousands more. So why now? Like, why would now be the best time to start jumping into it? I know everything's kind of down right now, but why should people still jump into it, knowing that 1, it's volatile, and 2, it's one of those things that's still new?
That's a great question. I think it's hard to find a perfect analogy for this. And a lot of people maybe not even were born at this time, but for us, people kind of over 30, you remember the internet boom, right? In the very beginning, you would hear on the news like, oh, whoever wants to send an email to somebody, I want you to send a letter or give them a phone call, right? It's like people don't get revolutionary technology until it slaps them in the face. And if you were ahead of the game on that time, you bought Amazon in the 90s and it crashed in the 2000 market, and you're like, this internet stuff is garbage, I'm getting out of this. You would be you'd be slapping yourself now because of the gains it's made. Bitcoin is sort of, or blockchain in general, is a technology that's around to stay. It's hard to say which one of these will be the winner long term in terms of the altcoins. Bitcoin is pretty dominant in the whole field, and Bitcoin drives the entire market. So the safest bet is probably to bet on Bitcoin. Safest bet in the crypto world. We're kind of in the middle of a market cycle right now. So no one knows if we're at the top and we're heading back down, or if we're at a bit of a dip and we're heading back up. The crypto world thinks we're at a dip heading back up, and the mainstream media is saying this is a volatile asset that's crashing down to zero. Bitcoin has died, I can't remember how many times, like 1,400 times, 1,400 days of news articles saying Bitcoin is dead, and it hasn't died yet. The technology is going to evolve and keep going. So you can be excited about that, but at the same time, we're in an uncertain phase. No one can tell you which way we're going for sure. So play it by that. This might be a good time in this cycle to get in. This might be the end of this cycle. And whatever you put in, be willing to lose, but get educated. Every expert will tell you something different right now. Nobody knows. There might be large multi-billionaires out there that are manipulating the market, and they may kind of have an idea which way they want to drive the market. But the retail world, I don't think we're at an early adoption stage. There's some interesting things that are coming, such as banks allowing people to buy crypto from their bank accounts, and banks being able to be custodians of their crypto. Visa's working on a lot of different partnerships to figure out payment systems, kind of like PayPal. Whether you hear China banning it or this country banning it, yeah, I mean, everyone, and governments are worried about this because the whole idea of cryptocurrency is challenging our current monetary system, which is extremely manipulated. So no matter which ring you're playing in a manipulated market at some level. At least with crypto, you kind of know what you're getting because it's coded, it's machine-like. There's a limit, there's rules and restrictions about it. Where the fiat currency world and every asset that's based in fiat dollars, I mean, you don't control that system. They can go print 20% more of it every year. And how is that going to compare to you? What's it going to do to your asset? It's going to make it balloon, but the value of the dollar that is ballooning by has to go more than 20% to keep up with the money that they're printing, which is very hard. Like, I don't think there's any companies on the stock market that are going to be growing by 20% per year, other than maybe some of the tech sectors. So do you buy gold? Is gold going to go up 20%? I think it's a good hedge against inflation, but gold doesn't move that fast. And real estate is going up 20% a year, but how sustainable is that as well? So you look at all those questions, I'd say if you're putting in billions of dollars, you have a different problem. If you're putting in a few $1,000s, pick your poison. Maybe you want to diversify between all of them, or maybe you can go all in on cryptocurrency. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take this as financial advice, but even Warren Buffett mentioned, it's like diversification is, I don't know the exact quote, so I'm paraphrasing here, but he chooses to invest in companies that he fully understands and believes in. And he does tons of research and reading, and he doesn't believe in just like dabbling in a bunch of different things. He believes that going in on one thing that you believe in. So if you can believe in cryptocurrency, I think that's one good thing to go all in on. Just don't expect it to go skyrocketing up to hundreds of thousands of dollars right away. Look at the long term, and I think in the long term, it's a great asset to learn about and invest in for the next 5-10 years.
You mentioned a few times about the inflation problem. What is the biggest issue about inflation right now that people need to kind of give more notice on? I think everybody in general understands what inflation is. And they all understand that, yeah, there's going to be a little inflation every single year and all that kind of stuff. But it's becoming more of an issue that people need to focus more attention to. And therefore, that's why lots of people are jumping into crypto, jumping into real estate, investments, and all that kind of stuff. So what is it about inflation right now that causes such a bigger impact that people need to start diversifying out into different types of investments?
I think the interesting thing is, so when inflation starts, the things that grow the fastest are assets. People want to turn their dollars into something that will grow, at least with inflation. So you see real estate prices boom, typically the stock market booms, gold might go up, because what happens in inflation is all of the commodities to produce goods tend to go up first, right? Because people don't want to say, well, there's more dollars out there so people can buy more things, so then resources start to dry up. And we see that, so if you look at the commodities markets, there's lots of good YouTube videos on this stuff, like coffee and beef and corn and lithium and oil and gas, like all the different commodities start to rise in price. And we saw that with lumber. There's some things due to supply shortages and coronavirus and that kind of stuff, but in general, commodity prices are typically rising. And so the first thing that happens is the cost of materials go up, then the suppliers have to raise their prices, and then the consumers end up paying more for their stuff. And people that are affected most by inflation are the people that don't have a large number of assets. If you have houses that are going up 20% a year, you have large amount of money in the stock market or gold or crypto or whatever that's ballooned in price, you're not too worried about paying an extra 50 cents for a loaf of bread. But for people that don't have assets, maybe if they're renting and they don't have money in the stock market and they're living paycheck to paycheck, they get affected first when the price of their stuff goes up 50% and their income doesn't. So really, inflation starts to hurt the lower middle class first that don't have tons of money invested in ballooning assets. And oftentimes the people that see inflation coming are the wealthy people with the assets. The media will tell them, don't worry about inflation, it's not a big thing, everything's going to be fine. Meanwhile, they're buying up more and more of their assets with the money that's ballooning. They go out way ahead, and then the lower and middle class gets left with a bag when they can't afford anything anymore. And then the government solution is then to print more money, which helps out the rich people more until the whole system collapses. That's the scary thing about where inflation can go. We're not quite there yet, but we're going to see the cost of everything starting to go up. It's going to be very tough. And, there's a few sort of scary doomsday scenarios of where it can go from here. But if you know about it, like what you do now, get prepared for it, I guess, basically is look for ways of moving your money or leveraging your money. The value of dollars in your bank account and the values of debt diminish during inflation. So if you can buy assets with them that will appreciate against inflation, that's the only way you can kind of catch up or come out ahead. If you're left sitting with dollars in your bank account, those dollars become worth less and less. And that's a hard truth. We haven't gone through a big hyperinflationary thing, but I'm sure some of our grandparents in different countries have. We've heard about it happening to other countries, and I think the Western world will probably, survive the best. A lot of these smaller, third world countries are going through this right now, and their currency is collapsing, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And so watch the news, learn about what's happening, and most likely one of the best solutions for them is not to collapse the currency, create a new dollar fiat currency out of it. A lot of them, they start moving to cryptocurrency, and we figure out a worldwide payment system. It'll level the playing field. These countries will come out way ahead because now they have a currency that's not valued in what their government prints. It's valued in a worldwide standard. It'd be a huge market shift. That would be a huge adoption for cryptocurrency. It'd be very chaotic because it'll cause a domino effect where more and more countries start adopting crypto. And there's actually a bunch of altcoins that are out there trying to promote this to different countries to get people adopted into the crypto world and say, hey, you know what? Stop using your fiat currency, use this. So problems with that is crypto is also very volatile, right? So they're switching from their volatile fiat currency into a potential volatile digital currency. It'll take some time for that adoption to happen. That would be a very interesting point for the cryptocurrency world, is like if a country decided, hey, you know what? We don't trust our government to control our monetary system. We want to use something that's defined and can't be printed out into existence. Who knows what could happen? I think it would cause a ripple effect, and more and more countries would start doing it.
What would you say is the top 2 myths or top 3 myths about crypto that are, one, myths because they're not true, and that's preventing people from getting into it?
Ooh. I think the biggest one lately is definitely the environmental impact of Bitcoin. And there's been articles disputing it on both sides. Obviously, yeah, I mean, a lot of the mining is coming out of China, where they are using coal-fired power plants to produce electricity. It's not just crypto mining that they're producing electricity for, though, right? That's an environmental problem that should be solved. And there's an issue with polluting the environment to produce a new technology. And but the truth is, I mean, Bitcoin's also driving the green energy revolution, and people are looking for options to mine off of green energy. I guess part of the problem is a lot of the energies like solar and wind are very temperamental, and the storage for electricity is hard to do. But I think people believing that Bitcoin is the cause of pollution is the wrong way to look at it. The amount of energy and labor and machine and time that goes into creating a Bitcoin actually adds value to it, right? And it secures the network. And so the fact that it takes so much effort to produce makes it more valuable. It's kind of like gold in that sense. If gold was easy to produce and I would go in their backyard, dig in the dirt and get some gold, there'd be no value to it. So you have to look at it. It's like a catch-22. Yes, it's not in the greatest place right now because there is coal electricity going to producing it, but the amount of energy it takes to produce is also makes it very secure, makes it more stable, more valuable than some of the other currencies, which someone can just code and create into existence out of nothing. So that would be myth number 1. I guess a second myth is that Bitcoin is going to go to zero, which we talked about too. It's like there's so much adoption. Once you've gotten hundreds of millions of people into this space, I don't think it's necessarily going to go to zero. The amount of money that's been put towards it would prevent people from if it went to a certain point, people are buying it up, obviously, right? There's a lot of large hedge funds, large investment institutions that have purchased a large amount of cryptocurrency. A lot of the it's interesting because there's a lot of websites that show the flow of money in and out of wallets. People think Bitcoin is anonymous, and at some level you don't know the person behind it, but you know the address, the wallet address of where coins are going to. You know where all the coins in the world are. Every address is public. So you can see that there's been a huge flow of money, and a lot of the large Bitcoin holders aren't selling. And that tells you something too. So when this last dip happened and we had a 50% correction, there were more Bitcoins being moved into wallets that have never sold Bitcoin than ever before. They're pulling them out of exchanges and moving them into wallets. It doesn't necessarily mean the price has to skyrocket. It just means that the people now holding Bitcoin have the means to not have to sell it. So the big money is trying to acquire Bitcoin. And that's an interesting point to make, in that if the wealthy people are doing it, you probably should be too.
Awesome. When it comes to we were talking about the inflation stuff. We're talking about finding the assets to hedge against inflation. I also know that sometimes texting you or texting Chan, I go, so what are you guys up to? And then Chan sends me a message back. Oh, he's lining up at Walmart. I'm like, for what? For Pokemon cards. I'm like, oh, really? So how does inflation, COVID relate to Pokemon cards?
Yeah, that's a good segue there. It's just sports cards in general. If you look at the maybe Pokemon cards sort of led the boom, because the millennials who bought them 20 years ago are now of age to have some money, so it's propping up the entire industry. And there's guys like Logan Paul on YouTube and stuff that have sort of driven that. But realistically, take the Michael Jordan rookie card, for example. About 2 years ago, it was selling on average between $30,000 and $40,000 for a perfectly graded Michael Jordan rookie card. And that started to increase very quickly. It was $40,000, and it was 80, then it was 120, then it was 250. And I think recently, a few months ago, one sold for $750,000. Right. So what kind of assets go from 40,000 to 750 after being in the $40,000 range for 10 or 15 years? To all of a sudden spike up that quickly, to go up 20x in 2 years. There's got to be something behind it. One part of it is interest, but part of it is when there's too much money in the system, and a lot of the money comes from those at the top. It's not really the dollar value that people buying it for; it's the status, and that it's kind of the valuations have gone haywire, and that sort of idea it's trickled down into the entire card industry. And so people are buying all sorts of sports cards for overinflated prices, mostly because there's money involved. And I think there will be a correction in the sports card industry in the next few years. But right now, it's kind of like a fun hobby to have. So you can buy these things, they're worth lots of money, there's lots of excitement about it. And potentially if you can get basketball and football cards right now, they're selling for insane amounts of money. It's kind of a good year for people in the sports card industry. Some of the rookie cards is a good year for that, so that kind of drives it too. But I think it's just overinflated assets in general. You want to talk about that? In that world, the value of the cards that are going to maybe keep their value are the really high-end rare cards. The cards that they're printing, millions or billions of these cards that have temporary values of a couple $100, those will probably crash down very low, just like it did back in the 90s. It's sort of a fun hobby. It's a way to get out of the house right now. You can go stand in Walmart and you meet a lot of people this way. And there's guys making $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a week doing this. So it's not a kid's game anymore. This is real money, and this is people's full-time jobs that are doing this. So I think it goes back to the point of there's tons of different things to get interested in. I had sports cards back in the 90s when I was a kid. I met some guy in a mall one day, and he sort of told me the story of why he was doing it and how much money he was making at it. And that's what piqued my interest. So I was just talking to some dude in Walmart who's standing by the card section, and I'm like, oh, you buy Pokemon cards? He's like, well, actually, no, I buy basketball cards, and I buy these things for $40, and I can sell them for $110 on Kijiji. He says, tell me more. So that's kind of how I got into it too. It's not necessarily for the money. It's the fun part of it too. And there is the adrenaline rush when you see the card stalker person come by with a big box of cards, and you start doling it out. And you're like, oh yeah, I just bought $500 worth of cards. I can sell them for 1,000 or whatever. That's it's a fun thing to do in this world, but there's not that many fun things left to do.
I'm gonna have to go and dig up some of my cases and stuff like that of all the cards that I used to collect, and maybe I have some gems in that. You must be one of the coolest dads. I mean, your kids like, so what's your kids are talking. So what's your dad doing? Oh, he's buying Pokemon cards or buying sports cards, and then they go, wow, that's cool. Yeah, but I don't get to play with them. With regards to going back to some investment talk here, when it comes to crypto, how does one kind of differentiate one coin from another? How does one pick which one to go with, and also how do they protect themselves?
So in the coin world, we'll create some industries in the cryptocurrency world. There are cryptocurrencies that are basically called monetary coins because their purpose is basically to be used as a method of exchange, like money. They have a well-defined code base, and most of them have already been created. That code base isn't going to change. They're not going to have a new revision of it. Most of the coins are already in existence, and they're just going to do their thing. This is like the Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Dogecoin, Viacoin, Dash. There's a whole bunch of currencies out there that aren't really going to change. They're going to do their thing and stay relatively stable. And it's kind of like Bitcoin being the gold and these other things being like the silver, copper, platinum, whatever you want to call them. So there's that realm of cryptocurrency. The second phase of cryptocurrency was sort of Ethereum and these currencies that create a blockchain ecosystem that you can do stuff with. You can create applications for it. You can create tokens out of it. And so these are like ecosystem coins like your Ethereum and Matic and Cardano coming up. So those ones have a bigger purpose. And then there's I'd call them the bottom is these tokens. And so the blockchains that can produce the tokens have a value, but the tokens that they produce, basically anyone can go on the internet and you can Google how to do this. And within an hour, you can create your own token. You can create 1 trillion Fong coins. What is the value of the Fong coin? It'll be whatever people willing to buy it are willing to pay. And these markets are created on nothing. And so while Dogecoin is a mechanical monetary coin, there's another version called Shiba Inu, which also kind of rose to fame during the whole Dogecoin craze we just had. It's basically just a token that someone created, has no use for it. It's a token in a website. People can buy it. There's a market for it. It's going up and down in value. People are making lots of money at it, but its fundamental worth is zero. Its network worth, its community worth has a value, which is obviously has propped it up. But when we go through a big correction, those things will all basically go to zero because there's no use for them at the end of the day. That being said, though, there's some tokens that there's some smart ideas, and you think things like points, redemption points, or shopping credits, or something like that. So when Visa gets involved with these things, they could give you some of this token as a point system. That's one example. Another space that's really gotten popular is the lending space. So imagine now you have equivalent of US dollars. You want to lend it out. Someone else is willing to borrow it at 12% return. You get a bit of a return, but they also give you some tokens that have a value for lending or borrowing, just being part of their ecosystem. So it's incentivizing people to lend money. So right now, if you had, make an example, $100,000 worth of, we'll call it USDT, which is a token that represents US dollars, and you lent it out there, you could get a 5% return. You might also get 20% of what you lend in a token called Compound, for example. That token could be worth $5,000, $10,000, for example. So it's creating these ecosystems of lending that you can never get these returns in the banking system. There is risk, obviously. More these investments aren't secured the same way that our typical financial institutions are, but it's promoting this idea now that the cryptocurrency world ecosystem has a lot of the financial tools that we do have in the fiat world. So people are jumping on that idea. They're getting essentially great returns on products that are typically stable. So if you have a bunch of US dollars, if Bitcoin crashes or skyrockets, it doesn't matter. Your number of USDT tokens stay the same. So the utility of crypto, that was sort of a very technical explanation. Hopefully that made sense. But there's definitely utility. There's uses to a lot of this crypto now. And finance is sort of the easiest stepping stone to get into of why the crypto space is getting so valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the collectible space, there's the gaming space. You know, so there's a lot of tokens that are garbage and have no purpose. But if you can put a use behind them, we live in a world of digital point systems and digital currencies, but now you can buy, sell, trade them.
Yep.
That's sort of a cool concept too.
Very cool. What's your crystal ball look like for crypto in let's say 1 year and also 3 years from now?
If we follow the easily predictable model, which I don't think crypto will easily follow, most people were forecasting around $100,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. This correction has kind of changed things. Some people were forecasting up to $300,000. We just kind of like kept the same pace. Maybe a little bit hard to do now with this correction. There's sort of two options with this correction. One is this is just a mini correction that we kind of go back up within probably by middle of June, late July. We start hitting the $50,000, $60,000 again. We just kind of creep our way back up to the end of the year. Oftentimes January is a down month because people are taking profits to pay for taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So people mostly assume that we have a dip by January. I think that's a likely option. Option two is we keep going down. This is actually the end of this cycle. We drop down to somewhere between $20,000 and $27,000 Bitcoin. People freak out, and it stays low for another 6 months to a year, and then has another cycle up. So that's another option. I'd say that's a little bit less likely looking at the statistics, but it's hard to say because a lot of it is driven by retail investors. We're still a large portion of the market who are going to decide whether or not they're scared or they're greedy. So depending on what happens there, that's where it'll go. The next big boom cycle, if it follows the same pattern, would be in 2024. Mm-hmm. And if it follows the pattern exactly, that'd be a fantastic time to buy. That would typically mean typical cycle would be we peak at the end of this year, we have a year of down, we have like sort of a year of flat, and then by 2024, that's when things that's where it's at the bottom, best time to buy, and it goes up from there. But people that can move these markets don't make it easy for investors to see these things. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's going to pan out perfectly like that. I still think the whole crypto market space is very manipulated because it can be. It's not regulated. And so people who can try to make money at things will do their best to do so.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. Two more formal questions for you. You're in a space where you are a very, very curious learner. You get lots of support from other people around you and coaches and mentors and all that kind of stuff. What is the best coaching advice that you've ever gotten?
That's right. That's a very good question because it depends on the moment and what you need to hear, right? That's the best advice is like you get what you need at the moment that you need it. That'd be perfect advice. And it's always growing. I think probably the advice to always try to learn something from everybody. That wasn't like a natural thing. I think we all have this belief that, we've made it here in real estate investing. We have this much money, so people that don't have money can't teach us something. I think we all have, you kind of sense those kind of things, or you kind of look down on people who aren't where you are or what you're doing. And it's a learned skill to just appreciate, people that may not know as much about crypto as I do could still be an indicator of how the market sentiment is for someone that's brand new. So I love to talk to people about crypto and kind of get their sense of what they want to do. The advice that you have 2 ears and one mouth and you should use them in that ratio is also probably good advice. And then you have to be able to filter what people are saying so you can make your own opinions.
Good. You're on the world stage. You get an opportunity to share one message to everybody in the world. What is that message that you want to ingrain in people's brains?
I'd say do your own research. Think for yourself. Don't be too trusting of what you hear in the media sources. I think the more you kind of like dig into things, you realize everybody who's giving you a message is doing so for a purpose now. The news is no longer news. The news is pushing you to believe something that maybe someone else believes, or that a group of people want you to believe. It's not a conspiracy theory thing that everyone's out to get you. It's just that the world is very driven by media sources now. You have to be careful of what you read and hear, one way or the other. Whatever you search for, you'll find a belief that follows what you want it to say. So you have to be willing to go and dig a little deeper and look at contrarian beliefs and opinions and say, well, there's got to be some merit why someone believes this. So I need to understand why they believe this. And compare about what this person believes, and then make the best decisions that way. I think because we have so much information now out there in the world that people are just willing to absorb it, get spoon-fed information, believe that's the way that it has to be. But I think people just need to keep digging a little bit more. You don't have to be an anarchist. You don't have to challenge the man and be angry about it. But at least you want to understand for yourself why you're making the decision you are. Mm-hmm. I think that's the best place to be. That's a personal opinion of how it should be. I think if everybody did that, that would be a very interesting world, and we'd have good debates, and we'd kind of push things along better. We'd have more innovation.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Very, very well said. Very, very powerful as well. Before I let you go, I got 5 quick questions for you. Give me the first things that come to mind. They should be rapid fire. You played this before. So very first question is, there's a Monopoly game named after you, Shinopoly. All right. Yeah. What would be the 5 or 6 tokens that you would have as the playing pieces that represents you?
We'll put a little Bitcoin. We'll put a real estate guy. We'll put a nice Ferrari. I need 2 more. What else do I like? We'll put a Pokemon. We talked about that, and some books. I think reading and knowledge is very important.
Awesome. You get to pick 3 people from all over the world, celebrities, moguls, entrepreneurs, whoever it is. 3 people to sit down and play Monopoly with you. Who are those 3 people?
Do I want to win, or do I want to learn something from these people, I guess?
whichever way you want to set it.
My thoughts. I think it'd be interesting. I really like, Tai Lopez, Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, all these entrepreneurs, Mark Cuban. Those would be really cool guys to hang out with. I think I'd learn a ton from them. I think it'd be funny to see Donald Trump play Monopoly.
All right.
Cool people. We'll put those 4.
Okay, so now you have those 4 people in your room, and they're hungry. You need to serve something special. What would you serve them for dinner?
I'd order Trump some McDonald's. I like sushi, but not everyone likes it. We'll go with a nice steak and potatoes dinner.
Sounds good. You have an opportunity to win the Olympic gold medal. Which event would that be?
Ooh. That's a good question. I always liked soccer growing up as a kid. So with soccer, Canada making it to the Olympics in soccer would be so for dreaming, there's a good one.
Oh, that's because they don't have you. That's probably why, right? Last question. What is success like? I got 4 items here. Give me a number between 1 to 4.
Number 3.
1, 2, 3. So how is success like granola?
It looks like it's a whole bowl of stuff, but really it's all little nuggets put together that you have to take one at a time.
Awesome. Very well said. That is how success is like granola. At this point, is there anything that you would like to share or let us know?
If anyone has any questions, I'd love to talk about crypto and ideas and learn from other people and see what other people are doing. So I'm an open book. If you can reach me on Facebook or LinkedIn or any of those kind of things, send me a message, and love to chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure listening to you and hearing some of the exciting things that you've been working on right now. That is all for us for today. My name is Fong. He is Shin Kawaguchi. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Fong. That was fun.
Awesome.